We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Here in Lodge Moor are the foundations of Camp 17, a prisoner of war camp in Sheffield. The camp accommodation consisted of 3 compounds that held thousands of German and Italian prisoners during the 2 World Wars. During the Second World War, this was known as a black camp for the Germans. That meant that it was home to the more hardcore Nazi supporters. Bob Moore is an expert on 20th century history. He says the camp had many purposes over the years.
This was a camp that was first established as a military barracks in 1914, the beginning of the Great War, and it became a prisoner of war camp for the first time in 1916, and was used then to house German officer prisoners until the war's end, or slightly after the war's end in 1918. After that, it was redundant for a while, and then obviously handed back to civilian use. It was used as an isolation hospital in the 1920s, but was recommissioned again sometime in the early 1940s after the outbreak of the Second World War, when it was used initially to house Italian prisoners brought to the United Kingdom, primarily to work on the land, and then subsequently to house German prisoners. And it's probably most famous for that role in the Second World War and immediate aftermath of the Second World War, because the last German prisoners weren't sent home until 1948.
Ein Rückblick und ein Ausblick.
Dorothy Thompson translated a diary by Helmut Hayes, a German POW in Lodge Moor. The diary is now held in a museum in Cologne, and she told me her favorite story.
They also had performances so that they wouldn't get bored by theatre people. And one of the performances was by the Salvation Army. And they were all bored sitting about listening to the hymns that they were playing on their instruments. And suddenly they started playing an old English hymn, which is the tune to Deutschland, Deutschland über alles. Do you know that one? Da da dee da dee da dee da. And that's an old English holy hymn. And they started playing that, and he said all of them that were listening suddenly thought, where are we? Where are we? We're back in Germany. And they stood up to attention, never realizing that it was an old hymn and not the German hymn. So that's one that I particularly remember, and I thought was rather good.
The inmate was in Lodge Moor from 1945 till 1946, and his diary includes detailed sketches of the camp drawn by another prisoner. Doreen Brailsford was 17 when she started as a soprano in the Laughter Makers group. Along with other volunteers, they entertained guards in Lodge Moor.
Prisoners were so handsome, it was unbelievable. All we could see was them through the windows, and they were waving. And I can just remember flashy white teeth, smiling. Because there was some pretty girls, I was pretty myself, I mean, there were some pretty girls. And they'd be at the window waving to them, and they'd be waving. And, you know, even though they were the enemy, we still thought, we were like that. We were young, weren't we? The guards, they loved it. They loved all the concert parties. They thought they were wonderful. They'd cheer us and whistle at us and all that, whatever. I don't know whether you ever saw on television Marilyn Monroe when she was entertaining them. Well, that's how we were, you know, sort of thing, and whatever. Oh, it was lovely to be admired like that.
Again, don't know where.